The grass was the wrong length. That was the first thing I noticed, standing in my own driveway at noon with a duffel on my shoulder after 14 months away. Not the mail, I'd had that held. Not the dust I expected on everything. The grass. It was mowed, trimmed along the walk, edged clean against the driveway in a straight line. I knew for a fact I hadn't left it in, because I'd left in a hurry in the spring. The lawn already going shaggy, no time to deal with it. 14 months, and the grass was 2 inches high and freshly cut. I'm Eli Mercer. I'm 34. I was an Army Staff Sergeant, and that was my last tour. Papers already in, ready to come home to the little house I'd bought outside Roseburg the year before I deployed. The first thing I'd ever owned. A place I'd lived in for exactly 5 months before the orders came. I didn't have family in town. My parents were 2 states away and not in great health. I didn't want them driving out to fuss over an empty house. So I'd locked it up, held the mail, paid the utilities on autopay, and left a house to sit dark for 14 months. A house that sits dark for 14 months does not have a freshly mowed lawn. I'd spent the whole flight home bracing for the opposite. That's a thing you do, coming back. You pre-grieve. You sit in the cramped seat over the ocean and you make yourself imagine the worst version of home so that the real version can't blindside you. And the worst version I'd built was exactly this house. Dark windows, dead lawn, a mailbox stuffed despite the hold, a place that had visibly stopped expecting me. I'd told myself that's what I'd find, because I had nobody in town to keep it otherwise. No wife, no family nearby, no roommate. Just a house I'd owned for 5 months before the Army sent me away, a house that had no reason to look like anyone was coming back. I'd made my peace with it on the plane. It's just a house. You'll air it out, mow the lawn, buy groceries, start over. Nobody's going to be standing in the driveway. That's fine. That's the deal you signed up for. I'd repeated it like a drill until I believed it. And then I stood in the driveway and the grass was the wrong length. And every word of that careful bracing fell apart, because somebody had been expecting me. Not a person I knew, a person I'd never met. But somebody, somewhere on this street, had looked at my dark house and refused to let it look forgotten. I stood there long enough that a kid noticed me. He was maybe 9, out in the yard, 2 houses down, and he'd been watching me the way kids watch a stranger doing something strange. And finally, he called out, "Are you the soldier?" "I'm a soldier. Why? Is this your house?" He pointed at it. "Yeah, it's mine." The kid's whole face changed, lit up like I'd confirmed something enormous, and he dropped what he was holding and ran, not toward me, but back toward his own house, yelling, "Mom! Mom! He's back! The soldier's back!" in the way kids yell things to the whole neighborhood without meaning to. And that's how I found out that the freshly mowed lawn had a person attached to it. Her name was Dawn Halverson, and she came out onto her porch wiping her hands on a dish towel, following her son, and stopped at the top of her steps when she saw me standing in my driveway, in uniform, with a duffel bag. She went still. Then her hand came up to her mouth. "Oh," she said. "Oh, you're actually home. I thought, Theo said the soldier was back, and I thought he was making it up. He makes things up, but you're..." She came down the steps, the dish towel still in her hands, the kid orbiting her like a small, excited moon. "Hi, God, this is going to sound insane. I'm Dawn. I live there. She stopped a few feet away, suddenly looking like she'd run out of a sentence she hadn't planned. "I've been mowing your lawn." I noticed. "Right. Of course you noticed. It's your lawn." She winced. "Okay, this is the part where I sound like a lunatic. Let me explain before you call someone. I didn't go in your house or anything. The lawn. I'm not going to call anyone." I set my duffel down on the driveway. 14 months of dust and noise and being somewhere else. And now I was standing on my own concrete in the noon sun talking to a woman with a dish towel about my grass. I'm just trying to understand why my lawn's been mowed for what looks like a year. Dawn took a breath, and the explanation came out in a rush, the way things do when you've rehearsed them in your head but never out loud. The realtor mentioned it when you bought the place, that the new neighbor was active military, about to deploy. Word gets around on a street like this. And then you left, in the spring, and the house went dark, and the lawn started getting long, and one day I'm out front, and I see the grass is up past the porch. And I think that house is going to look abandoned by July. And an abandoned-looking house gets broken into, gets cited by the HOA, it just sits there looking like nobody's coming back. She twisted the dish towel, and I couldn't stand it. The idea of a soldier coming home, whenever you came home, to a house that looked like nobody had been waiting for it. Like the whole street had just let it go to seed the second you left. She looked at me. So I mowed it, just that once, I told myself. And then it grew again, and I mowed it again. And somewhere in there, it just became the thing I did every couple weeks for 14 months. I didn't say anything for a second because something was happening in my chest that I hadn't expected and didn't have a name for yet. You mowed a stranger's lawn for 14 months, I said slowly. When you say it out loud, it sounds unhinged. Mom said a soldier should come home to something nice, Theo announced, with the devastating matter-of-factness of a 9-year-old. She said it lots of times. Every time she mowed it, she said, "A soldier should come home to something nice, Theo." And then she'd make me help rake. Theo. You did. You said it every time. Dawn closed her eyes briefly, the particular mortification of a parent whose child has just read their diary aloud to the neighborhood. Okay, yes, I said that. Theo, go inside. But the soldier's right there. Go get the lemonade then. Bring the soldier some lemonade. He's been on a plane. Theo tore off toward the house on the urgent mission of lemonade, and Dawn turned back to me, pink-cheeked, and there was a beat where neither of us knew what came after a confession like that. "I'm sorry," she said. "About all of it. Theo broadcasting my business, the lawn. If I overstepped, it was supposed to just be a grass thing. A neighborly grass thing. It wasn't supposed to be, I didn't mean for it to be weird. Dawn," I said. And her name felt strange and good in my mouth. The first new name I'd said in 14 months that wasn't a rank or a call sign. I just got off a plane to come home to a house I'd basically prepared myself to find dark and dead and forgotten. I spent the whole flight bracing for it. The empty house. The proof that nobody noticed I was gone. I had to stop and clear my throat. And the grass was the wrong length, because a woman I've never met decided a soldier should come home to something nice and mowed my lawn for 14 months so I wouldn't walk into a house that looked abandoned. I shook my head. That's not weird. That's the kindest thing anyone's done for me in years, and I don't even know you. Theo came back with lemonade, and the three of us ended up on Dawn's porch, because it felt wrong to stand in a driveway and also because I wasn't ready to walk into my own dark house yet. And a porch with people on it was the opposite of 14 months of away. I learned the broad strokes there, over lemonade, with Theo interjecting corrections. Dawn was 31, divorced 2 years. Her husband had decided married with a kid wasn't the life he wanted and had relocated his way out of it, the way some men do, leaving Dawn and Theo in the house 2 doors down from mine. She worked at the county library. She'd grown up on a farm and knew her way around a mower, which was part of how the whole thing started. "It wasn't even hard," she said. "I was already doing mine. Yours is small." It added 15 minutes. 15 minutes, 26 times for 14 months, I said. I did the math on the plane home about a lot of things. That's about 10 hours of your life on a stranger's grass. It wasn't 10 hours of nothing, though. she said, and then looked like she hadn't meant to say it. What do you mean? She was quiet for a second, watching Theo do something elaborate with a stick in the yard. I mean, okay, more honesty. Apparently today's the day for it. The lawn became a thing I looked forward to. Is that strange? I'd be having a hard week, single mom, library pay, the ex being the ex, and I'd go mow the soldier's lawn, and there was something about it that she searched for it. It was the one thing I did that was purely for someone else. Everything else I do is for Theo, or for work, or to keep the lights on. The lawn was just a kindness with no return on it. For a man I'd never met who was somewhere dangerous. And it made me feel like a good person on weeks where I didn't feel like much of anything. She shrugged, embarrassed. So don't give me too much credit. It was partly selfish. I mowed your lawn because it made me feel better about my own life. I looked at her, this woman who'd turned 14 months of small Saturday kindness into the thing that got her through her own hard weeks. And I thought, with the strange clarity of a man whose whole world had just gone quiet after 14 loud months, I want to know her, not as the neighbor who mowed my lawn, as the person on this porch. For what it's worth, I said. On my end, I spent 14 months not letting myself picture home, because picturing home is how you get hurt over there. You don't let yourself want the thing too much because wanting it makes the away unbearable. So I had this blank where home should be, on purpose. I turned the lemonade glass in my hands, and it turns out the whole time there was a woman 2 doors down keeping the blank from being true, mowing the lawn of the home I wouldn't let myself imagine. I don't really know what to do with that, except that I'd like to mow your lawn next time, even the score, and maybe buy you a coffee that isn't lemonade a kid poured. Dawn's cheeks went pink again. The soldier asks fast. The soldier spent 14 months learning that you don't waste the good days. You came home, you say the thing. I held her eyes. So, coffee, the non-lemonade kind. She'll say yes, Theo yelled from the yard, not even looking up from his stick. She thinks you're handsome. She told Aunt Carol on the phone. She said, the soldier's handsome in his picture from the realtor. Theodore. And Aunt Carol said, go knock on his door. And you said, I can't just knock. And now he's here, so you don't have to knock. Dawn put her face fully into the dish towel. I started laughing, the first real laugh I'd had in over a year, the kind that comes up from somewhere deep and surprises you. And Dawn lowered the towel and looked at me, laughing on her porch, and started laughing too, helplessly. And Theo looked at both of us like adults were beyond comprehension, which we were. Yes, Dawn said, when she could talk. Coffee, non-lemonade, before my son auctions off the rest of my private thoughts. The street found out before we'd had 2 coffees, because a street like ours is a surveillance network that runs on casseroles and curtains. It was Marjorie Pell who clocked it first. Corner house, retired, possessor of binoculars she claimed were for birds. She caught me mowing Dawn's lawn the following Saturday and materialized at the property line with the speed of a woman who'd been waiting all morning. You're the soldier, Marjorie said, the one Dawn's been mowing for. 14 months. Do you know what it means on this street when a woman mows a man's lawn for 14 months? I'm starting to. It means everything, young man. She leaned on the fence. That girl has had a hard run. The husband, oh, don't get me started on the husband. We don't say his name. Left her with that boy and a mortgage and never looked back. And she didn't curl up about it. She started doing for everybody. Mowed your lawn, shoveled my walk last winter, drives the Peterson kids to school when their mother's sick. That's a woman who decided that, since nobody was taking care of her, she'd take care of everybody else. Marjorie fixed me with a look. So if you're going to drink her non-lemonade coffee and mow her lawn back, you'd best be the kind of man who takes care of her for a change. Because this street is watching, soldier, all of us, and we've adopted her. I gathered the street was invested. The street is a committee, Marjorie said, and you're being evaluated. The casserole I bring next week will tell you the verdict. And she marched off, and I stood there understanding I'd been folded into something. A street, a committee, a kid, a woman. And that after 14 months of being one anonymous soldier among thousands, being evaluated by a casserole committee felt absurdly, overwhelmingly like belonging. Not everyone was rooting for it, though. There's always a complication, and ours had a name, and the name was one the street didn't say. About a month in, Dawn and I, careful and real and slow, Theo fully convinced I was a permanent fixture, the X showed up. Not dramatically. A truck in Dawn's driveway one evening when I came over, and Dawn on the porch with her arms crossed in the particular way that means a person is holding themselves together, and a man I'd never met loading some last box of his into the truck, saying something low. I almost left. It wasn't my business. It was hers, and I wasn't going to be the guy who inserts himself. But Theo came flying out the door and grabbed my hand and said, "That's my dad. He came to get the rest of his stuff. Mom said be polite." So I stood there, polite, holding a 9-year-old's hand, while the ex finished loading his box and looked me over. "You're the new thing," he said. Not unkind, exactly. Just a man taking inventory of a life he'd left. The soldier. "Theo won't shut up about you." He shut the tailgate. "She moves fast, huh? 1.5 years and there's already a guy mowing the lawn." A month earlier, I might have let that land. Instead, I just looked at him. This man who'd had all of it, the woman and the kid and the house with the lawn, and put it in a truck and driven away. And I felt something close to pity. "She's not moving fast," I said. She spent 14 months mowing the lawn of a man she'd never met because she couldn't stand the idea of someone coming home to nothing. That's not a woman who moves fast. That's a woman who never stops taking care of people, even strangers, even after somebody taught her she wasn't worth being taken care of back. I kept my voice even, Theo's hand still in mine. "I'm not the new thing. I'm just the first guy in a while who noticed she deserves to be on the receiving end. Drive safe." The ex looked at me for a second, then at Theo holding my hand, and something complicated crossed his face. Regret, maybe, or just the recognition of a door he'd closed for good. He got in his truck and left. Dawn came down off the porch and stood next to me, shoulder to shoulder, watching the taillights go. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Do what? Tell a man the truth about you? That's free. I've got a lot of it." He's right that it's fast, though. Her voice was small. "Eli, you've been home a month. I mowed your lawn for a year imagining a soldier I built you up in my head before I met you. What if I'm in love with the idea? What if you're still figuring out who you even are now that you're home, and I'm just the porch you landed on?" And there it was, the real fear under the slow, the same one I had from the other side. "Then we go slow enough to find out," I said. "That's the whole point of slow, Dawn. I'm not asking you to marry the soldier from the realtor's photo. I'm asking you to drink coffee with the guy who can't sleep past 4 and mows your lawn 3 times a week because he's a little broken. The real one. And if it turns out the real one isn't who either of us built up, then we find out before anybody gets hurt. But I don't think that's what's going to happen." I turned to her. "I think you mowed my lawn for 14 months, and I came home, and the first real thing I felt in over a year was on your porch. That's not an idea. That's the realest thing I've got." Dawn leaned into my side, and Theo, sensing the adults had gotten boring, ran off to do something with the garden hose, and we stood in her driveway watching her past drive away and her present settle in beside her. We took it slow after that, the slow we both needed. There was a kid in the middle of it, a kid who'd already watched one man leave, and neither of us was willing to be careless with him. And there was me, fresh off a plane, a man who'd just spent 14 months somewhere you don't talk about and needed time to remember how to be a person in a quiet town with a porch and a lawn and a future. The transition was harder than I let on at first. That's the part nobody warns you about. You dream of home as a finish line, and then you cross it and there's no structure, no orders, no next thing. Just a quiet house and your own thoughts, which after 14 months are not always good company. I got restless. I'd wake at 4 a.m. on a body clock that didn't believe the war was over. I mowed both lawns compulsively, mine and Dawn's, because mowing was a task, and tasks were the thing I knew how to do. Dawn clocked it before I admitted it. She was good at reading people. Librarian, single mom, a woman who'd learned to spot when someone was struggling and pretending not to. "You've mowed my lawn 3 times this week," she said one evening, on the porch that had become our porch. "It's the same height it was Monday. Eli, you're not mowing grass, you're managing something. What is it?" And I almost gave her the easy answer, just like keeping busy, the wall a soldier puts up. But she'd mowed my lawn for 14 months, without ever once asking for credit. And she'd just read me clean, and she deserved the true thing. "I don't know how to be still yet," I said. "That's the honest version. Over there, every minute was accounted for. Someone always told me what came next. And now I'm home, and the quiet I dreamed about feels like I'm waiting for orders that aren't coming. So I mow. Yours, mine, I'd mow the whole street if you let me, because a task is something I know how to finish. And the rest of this, the being home, the being still, the being a person, I don't know how to finish that. It doesn't have an end. It just keeps being quiet." Dawn was quiet herself for a moment. Then she reached over and took my hand. "You mowed my lawn for 2 weeks straight trying to feel okay," she said softly. "I mowed yours for 14 months trying to feel like a good person on bad weeks. We're the same kind of broken, you and me. We do something useful with our hands when the inside part hurts." She squeezed. "So here's what I think. You don't have to know how to be still yet. You just got home. But you don't have to do the task alone, either. Next time you can't sit in the quiet, you come mow with me, or sit on this porch with me, or just be near somebody who's not going to tell you what comes next, because there is no next. There's just this porch, this kid, this street. You get to just live in it now." Her voice caught. "That's the whole job now, soldier. Not waiting for orders. Just learning that the quiet is allowed to be permanent. And you don't have to learn it by yourself." I held her hand on that porch and felt the restless thing in my chest go quiet for the first time since the plane landed. What followed was a season of porches. That's how I think of it now. The porch season. We didn't rush anything. We drank coffee on her steps after Theo went to bed. I'd come over and we'd not even talk. Sometimes, just sit. 2 people who'd both learned the hard way that company doesn't always require conversation. She told me about the divorce in pieces, the way you tell the real version, not the clean story for casseroles, but the slow erosion of it. The way her husband had checked out years before he left. The way she'd shrunk herself trying to be a wife he'd stay for, until she'd looked up one day and not recognized the small, quiet woman she'd become. "That's why the lawn mattered, I think," she said one night. "Mowing your lawn. It was the one thing I did that was big, generous, unreasonable even. 14 months for a stranger. That's not a small, careful thing. That's a loud kindness. And I'd spent my whole marriage being small and careful and quiet. The lawn was me being loud about something for once, even if nobody was around to see it." She laughed softly, And then the somebody came home and saw it. And now I'm sitting on a porch being loud about my feelings to a soldier. Theo broke the seal, and I can't reseal it. I told her my version, too, the parts I didn't tell people. Not the war, I kept that where it belonged. But the loneliness of it, the specific ache of being a man with no one waiting. Everybody else got the letters, I said, the packages, the wife or the mom or the girlfriend sending cookies and photos, and I'd be glad for them, and also just hollow about it. Because I had a house and a lawn and nobody to send me a single thing. I'd convinced myself I preferred it. Less to lose. And then I come home and find out a woman I never met spent 14 months being the thing I told myself I didn't need. I shook my head. I was so committed to not wanting anyone. You ruined it. 2 doors down, with a lawnmower, you ruined 14 months of careful not wanting. Good, Dawn said. Not wanting is a terrible way to live. I did it for 2 years after the divorce. Decided I didn't need anybody, just me and Theo, locked it all down. She bumped my shoulder. And then a soldier I'd been mowing for showed up in his uniform looking exactly as handsome as the realtor's photo and stood in his driveway looking lost. And I thought, oh no, I want things again. I'd forgotten I was allowed. You told Aunt Carol I was handsome. Theo is dead to me, and so are you for bringing it up. I laughed, and she laughed, and the porch season rolled on, slow and good, 2 people relearning how to want things in the company of someone who'd relearn it alongside them. That was 2 years ago. I married Dawn last fall, in the backyard of the little house she'd kept from looking abandoned. The house I came home to, the house with the lawn that was the wrong length. Theo was the ring bearer and gave a speech nobody asked for, in which he took full and complete credit for the entire marriage on the grounds that he was the one who yelled, "The soldier's back," and also the one who told me Dawn thought I was handsome, both of which are, annoyingly, true. He's 11 now. He still brings up the lemonade. I mow both lawns now, ours and the new neighbors on the other side, because it turns out I came home with a thing about lawns, and I've made my peace with it. Dawn says I'm paying the kindness forward, 1 yard at a time. And she's not wrong, though mostly I just like the quiet of it now. The good quiet, the kind that doesn't feel like waiting for orders anymore. It just feels like home. I think about the grass a lot, the wrong length. Standing in my driveway after 14 months, braced for an abandoned house, the proof that nobody had noticed I was gone. And the grass was 2 inches high and freshly cut, because a woman I'd never met decided a soldier should come home to something nice. I spent 14 months not letting myself imagine a homecoming, because wanting it too much is how you get hurt. And the whole time, 2 doors down, somebody was making sure the home I refused to picture stayed worth picturing. A soldier should come home to something nice. She said it to a 9-year-old, 26 times, over 14 months, while raking the clippings off a stranger's lawn. And the something nice turned out to be her. I came home to a mowed lawn. I stayed for the woman who mowed it. Best homecoming a man could ask for, and I almost didn't let myself imagine it at all. What would you have done if you came home from the hardest year of your life to find that a stranger had been quietly taking care of the home you'd braced yourself to find abandoned? Have you ever been carried by a kindness you didn't even know was happening? Tell me your story in the comments. And if there's a soldier in your life coming home to something, make sure it's something nice. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.